Chapter 1. The Beginning. The story and the very concept of Dogeland starts with one man, Leouch, a man who created the very first Dogeland group, and possibly the very first Doge war group, Doge Federation. The year was 2014, and the Doge meme was in its prime, being fresh, new, and embraced wholeheartedly by the Roblox community, with a Doge Day being held, where all groups, games, and people changed names, logos, and thumbnails to Doge-themed things. This rise of interest in Doge was picked up by Leouch, a longtime veteran in Roblox's clanning and war group scene, a staunch Catholic and traditionalist, whose worldview would heavily impact the formation of Doge Federation and set some of the traditions we follow to this very day. Doge Federation was established in May 2014, with the booming of the Doge community all across Roblox, including the Doge Day, the dawn of an era unforgettable in the history of all of Dogeland, the Golden Age. Leouch's preferred method of recruiting was sending messages through the Roblox message system, sending people he would see in-game, and in other war groups and Doge groups, a message inviting them to join Dogeland and be involved in a group that, as he put it, was unlike any other. Chapter 2. The Golden Age. The Golden Age began with the rapid member increase, going from Leouch alone by himself to 1,001 members 1 month on from the establishment of the group. Early on, a friendship and partnership was formed between Leouch and Jitterman, the king of the much bigger Doge nation. A deal was struck between the two that they'd work together and that their groups would cooperate, with Doge Nation being the nation or master group and Doge Federation being the army or subsidiary group. The two groups would support one another financially and activity-wise, leading to an arrangement which was inevitably to be broken. The Golden Age was marked by consistent activity, with at least around 15 players on the capital at all times, and despite being the subsidiary and more active group by this point, there was considerable peace and friendship between Leouch and Jeter. A series of individuals rose to prominence, garnering respect from different parts of the group and becoming members of the high command. These individuals would be put into the history of Doge Federation as heroes by Leouch, memorialized in his Legends of Dogeland series. These individuals included Jackie, Bobby Duck, Crazy Sam 2002, Duskins, Bubdil, the Doge Halo, and Hans Doge Krieg. Despite the Golden Age being marked with consistent activity, wars were not overabundant, with the war against Kates, which has been immortalized and somewhat mythological, being entirely actionless and only a war of words. There was a war, however, against a group of organized narwhals, and raged throughout the Golden Age. There were, additionally, many raids organized by Leouch against different groups in the Roblox war group community. One such was a raid by the Hellgast on the capital, immortalized by a statue produced by Leouch, which stood in the museum in the capital. At this time, the Doge community was flourishing across Roblox, as summer had come into full effect and the maximum number of people were online and engaging on Roblox. Many smaller, yet extremely and unusually active groups sprang to life, and this led to the alliance and subjugation of many of these smaller groups, which joined Doge Federation due to the charismatic words and offers of positions by Leouch. A number of alliances also grew through this, and Doge Federation allied groups such as the Doge Assassins, Doge Akins, and the Doge Warriors. Though as summer winded down and fall came, the gold began to flake off Doge Federation. The first was a switch in ownership, with Leouch deciding to take a back seat for some time, giving the group to Forbes 50, who would briefly run it for a period of less than 2 months in August of 2014, before Leouch would reassume leadership. Chapter 3. The Dawn of War. There was one event, however, that changed the shape of Doge Federation, and the community that has followed since, forever. An argument between Leouch and Jitterman started over reasons which are still not fully known. However, Leouch always stated it was over Jitterman commanding Doge Federation soldiers and being rude to them. The argument ended when Jitterman was muted in front of a column of soldiers, insulting his position as Leouch railed off against the muted king. The argument between Leouch and Jitterman was arguably inevitable. Leouch's influence and popularity among both enlisted and high command alike was growing too quickly and too rapidly, while Doge Nation suffered inactivity and Doge Federation flourished. This would eventually lead to a wish for more independence and freedom for Doge Federation's side, no longer wanting to be a subsidiary of Doge Nation. This started a fight that would rage long beyond the departure of Leouch from Roblox, and extend until the final day of Doge Federation and beyond, until it was repaired in 2017 by Dogeus II. It is known by members of Doge Nation as the Doge Nation-Doge Federation Civil War, and by members of Dogeland as the War of Dogeland Independence. The war took its toll on Leouch personally, losing many of his friends to the other side, as Doge Nation and Doge Federation now took incredibly hostile stances against one another. The fighting only escalated into battle a few times, usually on the capital of Doge Federation, but the war was never fought on a full scale, tending to be fought in comments through coercion, manipulation, and through espionage. Due to the pressure and stress levied on Leouch during these times, he decided to take a small leave from December 2014 until early February 2015 and handed the group to Duskins, a dedicated general who would hold it until his return. During this time, the first version of The Outskirts was released and replaced the capital as the primary patrol and raid map of Doge Federation, the capital taking a more ceremonial role for rallies, meetings, and parades. Chapter 4. The Diamond Age. A young man going by the name Your Ramses joined Doge Federation in early February 2015, escaping from a community which was collapsing around him and which had previously raided Doge Federation during the Golden Age, the Helgust. The very same day as the joining of this young man, Leouch had returned from his break and had resumed his rule over Doge Federation, with the war much more cooled down due to his stepping back for some time. The people of Doge Federation celebrated the return of their beloved leader, and the following short time between February and late March 2015 was known as the Diamond Age. The Diamond Age was marked most noticeably by no movement in the war, and this persuaded Leouch to take the approach that he should simply ignore Doge Nation and the war, and that they would eventually have to give up the idea of war. This was not the case, as time would tell. The young man that was originally going by Your Ramses had now fully integrated into the community of Doge Federation, renaming himself Doge Ramses, and slowly climbing the enlisted ranks and catching the eye of Leouch, who admitted him to his personal guard unit commanded by General Bobby Duck, simply known as the paramilitary. Due to the young man's exemplary duties during raids multiple times over, he was awarded the Iron Cross on 2 separate occasions and featured in a propaganda poster. Everything seemed perfect, as new special maps were being released every few weeks, including a North African desert map and an Antarctic map with the Holy Grail hidden on it. Things, however, quickly took a drastic and puzzling turn when infighting between 2 members called Palawin and Doge Gang began to turn hot and required the intervention of Leouch personally. It was not long until Leouch himself announced his complete and utter resignation as leader of Doge Federation on March 31st and disappeared, only to be contacted a few times after as he left everything behind. The reasons behind this disappearance are still questioned and are still unknown until today. Chapter 5. The Time of Strife. The quick resignation and complete withdrawal of Leouch from Doge Federation led to mass hysteria and panic, with the group first being handed to Duskins, who shortly handed it to General Bobby Duck, who in turn handed it to Palawin. It was entirely unknown how the Doge Federation was to survive this cataclysmic breakdown in hierarchy and confusion with the loss of their beloved and unifying leader. It was during this time and confusion that the young Corporal Doge Ramses quickly became a sergeant, and then a master sergeant in quick succession due to his continued loyalty to the group. Palawin had decided that to find the new leader of Doge Federation, that elections were required to be held, and various candidates put forward their names, including Doge Gang. With some time campaigning, the election was soon over with the majority of votes going to Doge Gang, who promised reform and restructuring of Doge Federation, but due to Palawin's dislike towards Doge Gang, he refused to hand the group over, and instead gave it to General Oboroboy, who had been made the position shortly before the departure of Leouch. Oboro then handed the group to Doge Gang, and he quickly started his work of reforming Doge Federation, which would meet with various frustrations. His first attempt was to turn Doge Federation from a Doge World War II group to a modern theme, which was rejected by the majority of members. He tried again, but this time to make Doge Federation in a more Roman theme. This was yet again rejected by the majority of members. During this time, Doge Ramses who had now taken the name Dogeus I, had departed from Doge Federation due to his disgust of the infighting and the tearing up of Leouch's legacy, which he clinged onto. He founded a group known as the Doge Dominion, and it served as his main place of operations from the months of May until September of 2015. In Doge Federation, Doge Gang's attempts at reform were continuously hampered by the conservative member base, and struggling with funds for keeping the group afloat, he saw no way out of the situation that Doge Federation had dug itself into. This was until Jetterman, the king of Doge Nation, approached him and gave him the offer to reintroduce the system with Jeter as king, and in return, Doge Federation would receive development and funds. Doge Gang's reluctant acceptance angered many of the members of Doge Federation, who had a great hatred for Jeter and Doge Nation for their actions, and for their belief that they were the ones who had scared Leouch off of Roblox. The hatred for Jeter and Doge Nation grew over the following days and came to a boiling point when Dogeus I, who had rejoined and been reinstated as Master Sergeant, was exiled for wearing a paramilitary uniform. This set many veterans into a fury, as the uniform was a symbol of Doge Federation, and of Leouch. The exiling of a member because of this was the final straw for many. Soon, many of these high-ranking veterans left Doge Federation and joined Doge Dominion, where Dogeus I rallied them continuously as signs of protest against Jeter's rule of Doge Federation. This was until Doge Gang approached Dogeus in-game and offered an alliance. This alliance offered the support of Dogeus and the veterans, and in return Doge Gang would oust Jeter due to his lack of initiative with funds and development. The two quickly agreed, and the most important covenant in the history of Dogeland was made. Chapter 6. The Rise of Dogeus. The ousting of the king was quick and bloodless. The massed ranks of paramilitary uniform-clad veterans, Dogeus and Doge Gang, approached Jeter at the Doge Nation training base and simply informed him of his deposition and the acceptance of the veterans back into Doge Federation. The words of Jeter on that day echoed until the final day of Doge Federation. "I will destroy you for this." The group quickly returned to the outskirts where celebrations were held, and Dogeus I was given the first officer rank of captain. This act had, however, enraged Jeter and had restarted the war, but the people of Doge Federation had now a new morale boost from their freedom and the events surrounding what is now known as the September Revolution. Not long after the September Revolution, a new position was made beneath Doge Gang's commander-in-chief role, the position of chancellor. This role was to be elected and provide the people of Doge Federation a way to express their opinions on matters through this individual. The first and only election of chancellor resulted in a landslide 90% victory for Major Dogeus I, who stood on the position of ultranationalism and a cultural revolution of the past, exalting Leouch and the Golden Age as a heroic and mythic time in the history of the group. With a friendship forming between Doge Gang and Dogeus, it was not long before Doge Gang renamed himself Doge Gang I, and the two grew to be friends, working together to make Doge Federation powerful once more. For his duties in helping reform Doge Federation, Dogeus I was given the title Leader, a title held only before by Leouch and Duskins. This moment represented the amount of power and influence that Dogeus had now gained over Doge Federation and was the crowning moment in his career. Chapter 7. The Rebirth of Doge Federation. Not all was to remain as was, though, as due to a series of threats of DDoSing and continued attacks against Doge Gang, he was forced to give ownership of Doge Federation up and decided to give it to Dogeus. This was the beginning of a rapid series of changes in Doge Federation, changing the flag and anthem back to the old ones from 2014, and the re-adding of flags, banners, and tools from 2014 back to Dogeland as exaltation of the past ages of Dogeland. From October 2015 until March 2016, Dogeus ruled Doge Federation as the mostly uncontested absolute ruler. Conserving money the entire time and refusing to spend it on small ad runs, there were a series of demonstrations demanding ad runs in late 2015, which culminated in a small but ultimately weak and ineffective coup attempt by Doge Gang and other members. Dogeus continued collecting money and limited hats, which if sold could give a lot of money to Doge Federation. During the months of Dogeus's reign, peace was not maintained entirely, with the entrance of Cat's clan on the side of Doge Nation to the war. Their group aimed to crush tyranny wherever they found it. They decided that their next target would be the Doge Federation, and more especially, Dogeus himself. Dogeus had established a legislative system and had a group of loyal counselors beneath him who would represent different ministries and departments of Doge Federation. One of these counselors was Forbes 50, a member who had been in the Doge Federation under Leouch, but departed during the War of Independence and returned recently. Being very well off financially and having knowledge of trading and other financial conducts, Forbes was appointed as Minister of Finance and thought to be loyal, but this would turn out to be entirely untrue. In March, it was announced that Tix would be discontinued as a currency on Roblox in a month. It was then decided that Dogeus would run ads in the later half of March, due to his birthday being on the 27th, and the memorial for Leouch's departure on 31st. All limiteds hoarded by Dogeus were sold, resulting in at least 100,000 ticks being amassed by Doge Federation for advertisement runs over the next few days as celebrations for the leader's birthday broke out. The days between the 27th and 31st were glorious ones for Doge Federation. The group went from 3,000 members to 10,000 in those few days, and activity was the highest it had been since the Golden Age. Many heralded the start of a new Golden Age, as new recruits were being taught the basics and brought into the community. Little did anyone know, however, that this was the beginning of the end. Chapter 8, The Fall of Doge Federation. On the night of the 31st of March, 1 year on from the departure of Leouch, Dogeus I was terminated, alongside the name of the Doge Federation. The reason was clear: National Socialism. Doge Federation had delved too far into its inspiration, resulting in red banners, Roman salute tools, German language, and titles. The entire group was in disarray. The group was leaderless. In 2015, when a person was terminated, they left all groups that they owned. The group was claimed by a young enlisted man, 4-Man Cool, and it was decided by Dogeus on an alternative account that it should be given to Forbes temporarily, until Dogeus got a new account with Builders Club. Forbes quickly showed his true intentions and handed the group over to Jeter, with the intention of using it as a final trophy of their victory over Doge Federation. A broken, battered, and despaired people mourned that night, and many nights since. Their childhood in the group, which made bonds which still survive today, was gone, and in the hands of someone who hated them, and the history of the group they loved. Chapter 9, The Scattering. Following the termination, the spirit and will of the people was broken. None more than Dogeus himself, who had lost an account which was created in 2011 and had all of his items, games, and memories on. With a small entourage of supporters, he quickly retired to personal life, living in his realm's chancellery game and doing game nights with his supporters. The battered ruins of Doge Federation were claimed by Duskans under a new group, New Dogeland, which had outlawed Dogeus from gaining any positions under a treaty demanded by Jeter for the end of the war. New Dogeland was not long for the earth, however, as activity quickly shriveled under the crushed morale of the remaining members of the community. Dogeus, emboldened by the death of New Dogeland, began to rebuild his account. With funds given to him by his loyal supporters, he rebought his package, Doge Head, and his helmet. The supporters of Dogeus quickly formed the Dogeus Party, a movement which aimed to reinstate him as the leader of their community, and to rebuild or move. It was not long before this movement had control over New Dogeland, and instead of immediately rebuilding Doge Federation, they decided to take a break from the Doge community and make some human World War II groups, such as the Prussian Empire and the Austerlitz Empire, but eventually returned to the Doge community. Chapter 10, The Birth of Dogeland, the Greater Dogeland Empire. The return of Dogeus, this time alongside Doge Gang and all the followers they had amassed during their times in the World War II community, had bolstered the quality of future groups significantly. During the time of the scattering, Doge Gang had taken up trading as a way to make income for the groups, and they had returned at the opportune time in 2016 to recreate Doge Federation. Dogeus had returned with his new account named Dogeus II in honor of his first account, and what would become an iconic naming convention all across Dogeland henceforth. This was done with the creation of the Greater Dogeland Empire, a group which was influenced heavily by their previous human group of Austerlitz, and quickly grew due to the massive increase in quality, growing from 100 to 10,000 members in a few short months. The Greater Dogeland Empire was terminated, however, due to the inclusion of an iron cross in the flag. This was the moment that modern-day Dogeland was born, and the Doge Federation ceased to exist. Dogeus and Doge Gang's accounts got out of the termination of the group without a scratch, and plans for a new, improved, and undeletable Dogeland commenced as money continued to increase in their funds. They took a small break, running a group called the Austro-German Empire, as they waited for everything to fall into place for the creation of a new Dogeland. Chapter 11: The Greater Dogeland Realm and the Koala War. After a wait of some months, in early spring 2017, the new Dogeland was ready, with even better quality uniforms, updated maps, logos, and new divisions and different ideas implemented. This group was called the Greater Dogeland Realm, and was made to be entirely undeletable, with iron crosses and other blatant German militaria being excluded. This group was the first to include the National Dogeus Party as an integral part, with all high ranks being required to be members of it and to be staff in any ministry. It was during this time that Dogeus met with Jeter and nailed any issues from the past, deciding to leave those issues there and to move forward with cooperation. Dogeland established alliances and friendships with other groups such as Doge Akins, under Doge Nectar and Doge Erica, a group created by the Dogeland members Hans Doge Krieg and JJ. This collection of groups formed an alliance of Doge nations, similar to that of the United Nations, cooperating and growing together. The alliance, influenced heavily by Doge Nation, decided to declare war on an up-and-coming war group based on koalas, called Koala Association. The war between Doges and koalas raged on, producing some of the most memorable moments of the Greater Dogeland Realm. One such moment was that of the infiltration of koala ranks by Doge land operatives of the Secret State Police, who gained the rank of general on an alt and spammed both the group wall and shout with surrender terms from Dogeland to the koalas, which were posted on the, at the time, still functional Roblox forums. The war was ultimately won by alliance forces, overwhelming and outnumbering the Koala Association, resulting in them turning their focuses away from being a war group to a cafe group. With this, the downfall of Greater Dogeland began. The leadership sought to find a new group to declare war on to fill the void of peace, and eventually found a small group which they intended to annex, due to its nature. The Soviet Doge Empire, owned by one damaged 2255. Dogeland had a strict policy of not allowing any Soviet, communist, or socialist states to exist in the proximity of the meme community due to stark ideological differences. It was therefore decided to send an ultimatum to the owner and see if he would give up the group peacefully, which he refused. This led to a short but messy war, in which Doge land forces quickly overwhelmed the two members of the group, but were constantly admin abused. With admin abuse hampering any effective capture of games, the war was brought to a standstill and never formally ended. Over the months of September and October, activity took a turn drastically, falling by the wayside, not only for Dogeland, but also Doge Akins. A joint meeting between Dogeus and Doge Nectar decided on departure from the decaying Doge community, as Doge Nation had already gone back into inactivity from which it would never re-emerge. The plans were set and the departure was made, with the Greater Dogeland Realm being left as a memorial to Dogeland, and a claim that copiers would be hunted. Dogeland departed to the Greater Germanic Realm and spent a year and a half there before moving to the Millennium Realm, when a cataclysmic event almost akin to that of the termination happened. A hacker had broken into all of the accounts holding the different groups, including Greater Dogeland, Millennia, and Greater Germany, and had exiled every single individual from them, leaving the groups with 0 members, and the community baffled by who would do such a thing and why. By this time, the community had Discord as a means of communication, which was not possible during the first termination. This means of communication allowed everyone to talk with one another, make plans, and move rapidly. Chapter 12: The Dogeland Realm and the First Doge Team Republic War. The community had, by a majority, decided to return to Dogeland, making the Dogeland Realm, the very group that we own and love today. The move to Dogeland in October 2018 was intended always as a small stop before moving to another human group, but during this time some events did transpire. Since the departure of Greater Dogeland in 2017, small groups had filled the void of life in the community. One of these was the so-called Doge Team Republic, which used a Germanic Doge theme. Dogeland, being the first Germanic Doge group, was outraged by the sick shadow of a group that Doge Team Republic was, and decided to wage war to pass the time. The war was an overwhelming success. Dogeland, being the most active group in the Doge community by far at this time, forced Doge Team Republic to sign a humiliating treaty, which submitted themselves, declaring Dogeland the protectors of the community and as superior to themselves. Activity began to die down after this, but plans were continuing for the next human group to be made, which would be the British-themed Second Angevin Empire, which survived into 2019 and brought on the creation of the Burgundian Realm, the final group before the return of Dogeland in 2020. During the time of Burgundy, massive gains were made in all aspects: logo creation, uniform creation, technology, and map-making skills, as well as personal developments which allowed for the return of Doge Gang, now known as Doge Heart. Chapter 13. The Return. Many people in Burgundy foresaw the collapse of the group due to lack of inspiration to continue, and the seeming impending death of the Roblox World War II community. The decision was made by the High Command, with the amassed amounts of wealth and with the skill in new and different areas, to finally return to the Doge community, which had been suffering since the last Dogeland in 2018. A series of pathetic tiny groups filled the void of Dogeland since 2018. Primarily was the Revolutionary Doge Army, which was yet another sick mimic of the glory days of Doge Federation, with their leader copying many of the aspects, including some of the old maps. On the first day of the return, Dogeland gained 100 members and 40 players in game, a feat that surpassed any of the previous months of activity in Burgundy, and set the way for Dogeland to become the main player in the Doge community. Veterans were recalled, positions were granted freely, and as summer of 2020 approached with the appropriate conditions for massive growth, thanks to conditions not only virtually but physically, Dogeland's summer advertisements began. Chapter 14. The Rise of Dogeland. The national Dogeist movement was reformed, taking the place of the Burgundian Order of Folkism, the vanguard of the government and governing the nation. The movement was founded on the previous message of the National Dogeist Party: unity, unification with all Doges, and the creation of a Doge superstate under the name of Dogeland. It was with this goal and duty in mind that representatives of the movement, primarily Realm's leader Wilhelm Heydrich, approached the leader of the Revolutionary Doge Army, and other Doge group leaders, offering them more than fair deals, positions for themselves as generals, and their officers, as well as control over some divisions, in return for Dogeland gaining ownership of their groups. This deal was accepted by the leader of the Revolutionary Doge Army, but as he was ranked alongside his officers, he turned his back on the deal and refused to give Dogeland his group. This would start the first war Dogeland would fight in, and would result in an outstanding success, with the capture of the enemy base multiple times, until the group banning of Dogeland. Dogeland celebrated this victory, alongside the quick gaining of members during the summer advertisements, culminating in the gain of 10,000 members, which would be celebrated in December with the opening of the realm's capital of Dogeland, one of the largest projects in Dogeland's development history. The release of the realm's capital of Dogeland began a new age in Dogeland, one that would lead to the so-called Great Leap Forward. With a speech in the enormous Great Hall, Dogeus II stated the intent of the nation to march forward undeterred by any foe or obstacle. Dogeland was growing so rapidly and maintaining its active players that it did not require constant war to keep it afloat. This has led to many times without war, as it is not required, unlike many conventional war groups. The group has only fought a small number of wars, including that of the war against the Clown Clan, and the Funny Powers, which resulted in an inconclusive result for both sides, and a peace treaty between the two. Dogeland would go on in 2021 to achieve 20,000 members and to release one of its most ambitious maps yet, the Outlook, combining many new technologies and development strategies thought previously impossible by the development team, culminating in hundreds of hours of work and dedication. The so-called Great Leap Forward completely changed the structure of Dogeland, splitting the armed forces from the now renamed version of the National Dogeist movement, the Unity Front. Members were now required to pick a career path with the front and the divisions attached to it, including the state police and personal guard of the leader, or the armed forces, including all its branches and divisions. Alongside the release of the Outlook and the advent of the Great Leap Forward, a series of updated uniforms and logos were released. modernizing Dogeland entirely with some of the world's highest quality production in uniforms and logos. Dogeland now stood as the undisputed master of the Doge community. All others lay in the dust before it. Time will forget them. But never Dogeland. Dogeland has cemented its legacy for years to come.
We are not going to be around for a decade. That day will not come. A lot of time and a lot of money. A lot of money has been put into this. This will not continue.
Ready?
3, 2, 1, I'll go left.
This gun packs quite a punch. However, you do need to be quite accurate to get results with it. Dan, if you could just fire it into the air once. Yeah, that's it. Whoever's in the cannon, just please step out. We're not moving the ship anyway. We just respawn when we do this. Just step out on deck.